I think it's a trend, as you say, for majority of the large phone makers to try and do some of the key components in-house, as it gives them a kind of points of differentiation where they can build in their own technology to differentiate themselves from other phones to stand out. So I think that's a trend that's majority of the large phone makers will follow, but it's really relates to the core processing and some of the technologies like 5G. It doesn't mean that every single chips in a phone, and there are hundreds in a phone, they'll all be in-sourced necessarily.
Jalal, good morning to you. Look, over the last 52 weeks, your shares have gone from their low of €12.44 to somewhere near their recent high of over €34. Why do you not have a better use of money than a buyback, even though your shares have almost tripled?
So we do, and part of that money is for share buyback to return some cash to our shareholders, but quite a lot is invested in our R&D for new products, and also we do acquisitions externally. For example, in Q1 we announced the acquisition in Korea, where we buy a small company that gives us the very, very low power Wi-Fi technology, and these are for battery operated products that can't use Wi-Fi today, because typically you have to be connected to the mains. And think about point of sale terminals, security cameras, any portable device that requires connection to Wi-Fi would benefit from these chips, and it expands our activity in the Internet of Things, and that's an area that we are keenly looking at other targets to add to that portfolio.
Jalal, I'm looking through all the business segments, and every one of them is down on the same time a year ago. In particular, when it comes to the auto and industrial sector, are down a fairly mighty 46% on last year. I want to ask you about that, because you have cited lower volumes in auto and industrial products. What's impacting you? Is it this emissions change that's taking place in Europe, Chinese orders? Is it trade? What's coming into the mix, and do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
I think that particular reporting doesn't reflect the broader automotive and industrial market, to be fair. Is a handful of legacy products, and as we are in transition, some of those legacy products are not doing so great in Q1, and that would be declining over time. It's a small part of our business, which is legacy. We do have new business in automotive developed using our power management chips, which comes from actually the same technology we use for smartphone and tablets. And I can report that we have now over 30 engagements in both China and Japan for infotainment and ADAS technology, which is not reported in that legacy segment.
What are the margins like on those chips that go into the autos versus the one for the smartphones? Are they much higher margins?
It depends on the technology and how differentiated it is, obviously, but they typically tend to be higher margin than mobile phone. That's correct.
Jalal, finally, can you talk a bit about the demand for smartphones, specifically in China? You alluded to it. Can you give us some sense of how big you expect that rebound to be? Is it enough to stop the overall slowing in the smartphone market, and what's your projection towards the end of this year?
I think what we see in our business is a shift of shares between the bigger players in China. So it's not so much that the overall smartphone market would grow, but it's certain players, for example, like Huawei, Xiaomi, are exhibiting much higher growth than others in the China market. So it's more of a shift and taking market share from each other. The overall market remains large, but I don't think anyone should expect huge growth until 5G really kicks in, which would be probably a year to 18 months from now.